So Ben, looking at your IMDb, you were born in 1988.
Right.
You love John Hughes movies, and John Hughes was already making films by this time. Where does this love for 80s films come? And do you feel you were born at the wrong time?
I used to say in the past that I was born in the wrong time because I used to love the 60s so much. But as I grew up, I think it was like 5 or 6 years ago, I just fell into this love for 80s movies. My all-time favorite are John Carpenter, William Friedkin, John Hughes, these kind of people who use the genre film as a way to convey a story, as a starting point to just tell a bigger story. I love how, and the Coen brothers are still doing that. For me, the Coen brothers are still doing kind of an 80s genre, kind of cinema. And I love the way in the 80s the genre was a starting point to tell a much bigger story with political implications or metaphysical implications.
For me, I remember the movie Gotcha. I don't know if you remember
yeah,
that movie, Linda Ferrantino and Anthony Edwards. And even though it was about a serious subject, there was still an element of play.
Right.
And I miss that about so many films.
That's so true. I mean, especially the blockbusters and the studio movies in the 80s used to have this playfulness, as you were saying, which I think relates to, I mean, nowadays we are in a postmodern age where, I mean, a lot of filmmakers are kind of obnoxious by making movies, because some of them are aware of that, but I think that some of them are not, because it's also, we live in a time where, I mean, we have cinematics and places where we see a lot of movies, old movies, all the time. And I think that cinema, of course, is becoming more and more an art, and we are restoring, preserving movies, and it can be cumbersome sometimes because we feel like we are standing on the shoulders of giants, you know, of the people who came before us. And that's true that I love the 80s movies in a way because they were so playful and they were so not pretentious at all. I mean, when you look back at the blockbusters of the 80s, they were not so pretentious. And that's why I think like a movie, for example, like Guardians of the Galaxy right now is doing so well at the box office because it has this kind of not rebel spirit, but I mean it has this playfulness and this not pretentious aspect to it. Even though you can like it or not like this movie, but you have to recognize that it has this playfulness that Hollywood cinema and blockbusters used to have in the 80s.
It seems like, too, there was a lot of cameos
from
people, and sometimes they weren't even really stars. They were just known for being like in movies, and like you never really knew what they did.
Yeah.
But so do you miss that? Do you think? I mean, we still see it somewhat today, but maybe with, you know, a musician. But is that something that also intrigued you?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about John Hughes. It was not in Breakfast Club. I think it was in Ferris Bueller. The cameo of Charlie Sheen, I mean, is amazing. It's like, I mean, the image of Charlie Sheen in his perfecto leather, you know, jacket is like standing in the camera. It's so funny, and he's on camera for like 5 or 10 seconds, no more. And yeah, I love this idea of coming back to John Hughes and these kind of directors who had this group of people, of actors following them and just working with them, and they could call them and just propose them a cameo, just a small thing into a movie.
Right. Do you want to bring that back? I mean, I think was it Staying Alive, Sly Stallone bumps into John Travolta and like the opening shot, you know, it's so great. And is that something that you want to incorporate? Just there's an element of play, even though it was a sort of a serious film, Staying Alive.
Yeah, I love this playfulness, and for me it was, it's something I love these blockbusters back in the day where this playfulness, this game with the audience and this way of just getting the audience in and playing with them along. Yeah, so I think nowadays it's sometimes a lot of blockbusters and even indie movies. I mean, a lot of movies right now I think are really sometimes too aware of what they're doing, and it's like they have to make references and they have to be serious. It's like, and I mean, for me, the line of the Joker in Chris Nolan's Dark Knight, like, why so serious? It could apply also to movie making right now. It's movie making is getting, I think, too serious. I mean, it's like, it's so serious. You want to say, like, make some joke. Take a joke and just laugh at it. I mean, to make the process even more fun for the audience. So yeah, I think we lost the fun part of making movies. I mean, a lot of people lost it, and you can feel that in the movies.
So you made a thesis film
right.
Entitled "Who Framed the Movie Critic?" Is that
yeah.
right? And we were talking earlier about how in France a movie critic has so much power. How do you feel movie critics should be regarded, and do you submit your films to be critiqued?
I enjoy a lot critics, and I want to have more and more feedbacks about what I do. So of course I'm not the kind of guy who's going to say, you don't know nothing, so don't talk about my movie. I love having the most feedback I can about my movies. And I think that what a lot of critics would need to have is more knowledge of how you make a movie. I mean, how we make a movie. And it's, I mean, I think that a lot of critics have these theories, they have this knowledge, this great knowledge about movies, like from the expressionist German cinema to nowadays blockbusters. They have this great knowledge, but I think that a lot of them lack a sense of craft of filmmaking. I think, and that's what struck me when I made the jump from creating myself to a director, is that not a lot of people know the craft of filmmaking. And I think that I don't consider myself as an artist, and I don't consider filmmaker as artists, but more as craftsmen. And I think that's, I mean, it's like carpenters. I mean, it's something you just go with your hands, your bare hands, and you just work on a set. It's very physical. I think that's why it's more of a craft. And I think that a lot of critics don't have this knowledge of the craft of filmmaking.
So you studied to be a film critic, or that was your hopes?
Yeah, exactly. I studied to be a film critic. I've been a film critic for a while in France. And I realized that it was a conservative choice for me to do that, and I really wanted to be a director forever, to make my movies and not only talk about other people's movies. So I made a jump, and I decided, no, you have to make movies and tell the stories your way.
Where did you study in France?
So yeah, in France, I studied movie critic in La Sorbonne. I studied journalism at La Sorbonne, and with this idea of me wanting to be a film critic. So yeah, it was at La Sorbonne.
Do you remember the day or a few incidents when you said, you know what, this isn't for me?
Well, I have a lot of moments like that where I said to myself, it's not for me. I was a lot younger and maybe a bit, now when I look back, maybe a bit back in the days, obnoxious about what I wanted to do. I was like, I wanted to make movies, and I didn't make a clear choice. I said I wanted to make movies and artistical stuff, but I was still learning to be a critic. So I was at the crossroads of the two of them, and I didn't make a clear choice. So I kind of say that every single time I was going to make an interview, to make a report on a movie interview filmmakers, actors, all that stuff, every single time I was like, I want to be on the other side and I want to tell my stories because that's what I want to do. And so yeah, pretty much all the time. Then to answer your question, I've been thinking about that.
So having been in the States for a few years now, how do you see American movie critics regarded versus French movie critics?
I like the fact that a lot of American movie critics are not that big of a deal, rather than in Paris. It's not French, it's in Paris. Paris is a little town really, and the people who are in charge of movie producing and movie reviewing are kind of the same people, and they are frequenting each other, and it's a small group of people, which is not an insult for me. It's their way of doing it. But I think here in the US there is this tradition of in France it's more it's closer to being a friend to people and being able to interview them, rather than here there is more of a craft of movie critics. When you look at Roger Ebert, even though Roger Ebert got famous because of his relentless, sometimes harsh critics about movies, or amazing critics about movies, I think he managed to understand what the craft of filmmaking was, because himself he wrote a movie for I think Roger Corman. He wrote the In the Valley of Dolls, and so he had this idea. He knew what movie making and writing was about. So I think that here in the US it's more of a profession, whereas in France and Paris it's also a profession, but it's also something which is for them seen by themselves as of an artistic form. In French, movie critics are perceiving themselves as artists too, in a way, and they have to make the critic feel like it is an artistic form. So sometimes this idea of just, I'm gonna write something as artistical as the movie, is against the critic of itself, because I think it's ruining what a movie critic should be about, which is stripping down the filmmaking process and see what were the choices made by the director.
Do you think all potential movie critics or current movie critics should be required to at least make one feature film?
That would be a good idea, but I think that would not be possible for a lot of them. But I think that there are a lot of them who are going on a set, and once you are on a set, you understand a bit more what it is. But that's true that when you are not in the chair of the director, you cannot feel and you cannot understand what it is about. So yeah, I have to say there would be a need for them to know what the craft is more about. So yeah, maybe going on a set, directing shorts, just taking some classes, maybe.
Editing.
Yeah, editing. It's
sitting
also
behind an editing bay for hours.
Yeah, in the editing room, you are truly. That's where you are feeling that you have to make choices, and filmmaking is about making choices and cutting a lot of stuff. So yeah, I think they will need that.
How long have you thought about being a filmmaker? You're
Right.
26 now, right? So do you remember how old you were when you decided, I want to make films?
It was right after high school that when I entered La Sorbonne, I knew that I wanted to do that. But in France, when you finish high school, there is no clear way of just being a filmmaker. When you are, and I think in the US it's kind of blurry also. That's a gray area. When you are graduating, nobody knows really how you enter a film school or what are the film schools out there. I think that's, which is kind of crazy, because I think filmmaking should be treated as a job, as a real job like other jobs, and we should show maybe the kids, okay, so you can go that way and learn that, and go into this school and learn the craft there. And I think that it's a common thing here and maybe in the US and Europe and everywhere, that we lack a clear path to go and be a movie director. I mean, when you have a kid who say, I love movies, I want to make movies, a lot of the time they don't know where to go, which is sad, I think.
So why do you make films? What's the reason?
I make films because I'm addicted to films, and I want to make stories that people can be addicted to, like I used to be and like I am right now with other people's movies. I think, okay, it's all about the story, but it's also about creating a universe where people can go back with their mind. A lot of time they can, like, I'm making movies for people to go back at night, and when they're about to sleep, think about the movie and think about its characters, think about its universe, and just I want a movie to still be with them and to accompany them as they go in life.
You talked about going to school near a bunch of movie theaters. When you walk in, when you pay your $12 or whatever it is, right, what do you want from a movie? What do you want for it to do for you?
You mean right now or back in the...
Either way. You know, when you sit in that chair, you're like, you know what, I've committed to 2 hours of my time.
Right.
I've paid the money. I have my popcorn or whatever it is. What do you want that movie to do for you?
I want the movie to make me feel something. Truly. I want to feel... happy, sad. I want to feel something physically too. I mean, most of the films I truly love provoked something visceral in me. I want to feel that visceral thing in me. I mean, I want to be crushed. I want to be. I want to feel like a human being. I think that's the goal at the end of the day, and that's why most of the films and the filmmakers I truly love use this visceral aspect of film, which is, for me, one of the most important. Okay, film is a cerebral thing sometime, but for me, and that's the kind of cinema I want to do something more primitive, more visceral, something which can stick with people.
Right, like Blue Valentine.
Yeah.
Did that stay with you?
Yeah, exactly.
Took you on just a
roller coaster of emotions. Yeah.
Right.
I thought you were going to say Blue Velvet, which is also...
Okay, sure, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a huge David Lynch fan, so...
How do you see the artists regarded in France versus the US? You know, you talked about there was that gray time right after high school, around that time where you're making that decision. Do you think the artist is embraced as much in the US as it is in France or even in Europe?
I would just make a note about that, because I think that filmmakers, are not artists.
That's right.
I think that it's more of a craft. Artists, I would say that would be more people, painters, sculptors, these kind of people. I think that we don't have to lose the industry side and the craft of it. And it's true that in France it's seen as a very artistical thing, which is great sometimes, but in other times which can be also cumbersome, because you have this when people tell you, okay, you are an artist, you have to make an artistical movie, sometimes it can make people overthink and overkill the movie. And that's why I love in the US this craft which you are sharing with the DP, with your AD, with producers, and you are constructing a movie together with your bare hands, as I was telling you. And I love this concrete, physical way of building the movie, almost as the same physical form that the viewers are going to feel it in a very visceral way.
So you're a craftsperson?
Yeah, exactly. That's how I would define myself. And I love this term because you have a long tradition of in the history of mankind, of people, of carpenters, of people building cathedrals. I mean, when you make a movie, of course, it's not as building a cathedral, but in a way, it's kind of a small cathedral you have to build. So.
Sure. And you're affecting people too,
yeah.
like you said, because there's movies that stay with us for years that have changed us.
Exactly, exactly. I want to affect people, and I think that it's not only a trick, because some people, I love, for example, the way Chris Nolan describes his movies. He's a magician. He's like building things for people, and I love it. I love this side, this craft, tricking side, where people don't know how the movie was made, which is amazing. And yeah, for me, it's all about that, but not to trick people. It's to trick people to make them feel something.
Ben, how did you know you were ready to make a feature film?
I didn't think about that. You know what? Maybe I was not ready. I just went out and made the film, and that I think came from an impulse of just I wanted to make my feature film. So I didn't think about anything, and we just went and make the movie. And that's after the film, the shooting itself, that you realize, we just did that in a crazy amount of time. I mean, we were so fast, and at the end, it was like a train going, and just going so fast, and we were just jumping on a train, when the train stopped, we were like, whoa, we've been doing all this road together, and we didn't realize about that. I mean, because it was so fast and I think that's a great thing, because sometimes when you are thinking too much about making a movie, you can kill it by overthinking and taking too much time, and at the end, not making the movie. Whereas us, with my co-producer Todd Bartu and our actors, we just went and make the movie.
What was that first thing that you did? Because I know you were taking the filmmaking class at UCLA Extension.
Right.
And you were supposed to make a short, but you said, you know what, I think I want to make a feature, right?
Exactly. So the thesis film at UCLA was supposed to be 15 minutes long, and over the course of 2 months, I just wrote and rewrote this Pink Zone script, and I knew I wanted to make that. And so I went and see them, and I asked them, okay, so can I use the first act, the first 15-minute act, as my thesis film, and let me do the rest, the feature film, for myself? And they were like, okay. And so after that, we just went out and made the movie, which was 70 pages long. But I knew a lot of it was going to be based on improv, because I love to work with improv with my actors. So at the end of the day, we have a 1 hour and 32 minutes long movie, which is the perfect fit for the movie.
What were some of the first steps you took? I mean, did you go to Actors Access and put up a casting notice, or what did you?
Okay, so the first thing was to secure locations, because we had this. I wrote the script in a way that could be possible to do in real life, and so we were able to secure the Avenue of the Stars, for example, for 1 day of shoot, and I went and see people at UCLA, which was tough to secure, because even though I was a student at UCLA Extension, but still a student at UCLA, it's still super hard to get authorization and permits, and because they're more into authorizing shows like CSI, so great shows, and kind of great indie movies like like studio indie movies, and not no budget. So it was kind of hard, but because we talked about the story and about what I wanted to do and what locations I needed, they were fine with it. And so after the locations, at the same time as locations, we started what for me was the most important process, which is the casting, the audition process. And for me, that was the most important, because since I knew I was going to rely a lot on improv, I needed to have the right people. And because this story is a character-driven story before all, I knew that my characters, my actors, would have to carry the film. And at the end, I knew that they would be creating the film as me, as I was doing on set. So I auditioned these people here at Film Independent, and we had 2 days of full auditions, and we saw almost 1,000 people, and it was crazy, tons of people, boys and girls, for the boys and girls roles. And each time all these people were hired because I had a true, I fell in love with them for the characters. They were the right character. And so it was a fun and very enjoyable process. I love auditioning, casting. It's great because you meet these people who are going to bring something else to the game, to the character. I mean, a lot of people brought so much to the character that at the end of the day, the character changed. And so that was the most beautiful thing, I think.
Yeah, I think you were on another film show, and the guy said, "Man, I fall in love with my lead actress every time." I forget what it was, but he said, like, for that movie, you become so engrossed and you fall in love with those characters. And then once it's done, you're on to the next thing.
Exactly.
Back to real life.
Exactly. Back to normal life. We have to say goodbye. It's done. And I think the most, for me, the big revelation was the male lead of the film, Dad, which is played by Matt Cooper, who is the father of the lead actress of Pink Zone. And so basically I had a hard time finding my dad character. So during these 2 days, I couldn't find anyone who was Dad. So I was like, I'm gonna have to bring some other people. So I did another afternoon of auditions for Dad at UCLA on campus. And so we had like 30 other people coming. I was like, and I was still not finding the right Dad. And then came this guy, Matt Cooper, this actor, great actor, and who just brought this humanistic side of Dad, because Dad in my script was too much of a bad guy. I kind of, not cliche because I didn't want him to be cliche, but I mean, he was truly the bad guy. And when Matt came in the audition, he brought that human side of Dad. And it was like, oh, he is making these bad choices, but he has good intentions. And that's something I didn't see in my own script. And when Matt came in and brought this on the table, I was like, this is perfect. This is who Dad is. So I hired him right away and was happy.
Where are you posting these casting notices?
We used LA Casting, the website LA Casting, which has these. I mean, everybody's on LA Casting, which is great. So it's perfect. We had huge responses, and all these people were. I wanted these people to. I was not going to look for what they've been doing in the past. I'm not this kind of guy who look in the back of the resume. I'm more looking in front of the resume and what they're doing actually in front of me. And that's why I knew that I wanted to have people who are fresh in a way and would have not been on the circuit of indie films too much. I wanted them to be fresh and creative and try some stuff on set. So that's why most of them had not so many credits. I mean, some of them had some good credits, but none of them had big credits, and that was the great thing, because they were fresh, they had these new faces, they were not famous, and for me that was the most thrilling part of it.
Why make a feature? Why not stick with shorts?
Right.
You had to make this feature. Why? What was it in you?
To be honest, I was talking about that with a professor of mine at UCLA who has this great production company, who is a veteran, and he was like, don't make a feature once you're out of film school. Film school is a great place to make shorts, and I did a bunch of shorts at UCLA to learn. I was learning like that, but it's true that one advice I would have is don't lose time on doing shorts. I mean, there are so many people out there who are making films and calling themselves directors that I think that right now times have changed, and it's not like it used to be with Spielberg, Lucas, who get famous because of their shorts and get access to a bigger film because of their shorts. Nowadays, I mean, we are in the time of digital cinema, and getting a pretty usable camera is pretty cheap. You can even do it with your iPhone. And so it's all about, people are going to judge if you are able to hold a long time and be able to make a true feature film. So I was like, I don't want to make shorts anymore, so let's do a feature film.
And this was after how many shorts?
I did 3 or 4 shots at UCLA.
Okay. So you were saying, this is it.
This is it.
Ben, I think I'm paraphrasing here something that you said, but to the effect that of the beauty of cinema is showing a character that has failed or has flaws. And you said that as a moviegoer, this is what you love about films. Why? Why does that intrigue you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, one of my all-time favorite character in fiction would be Walter White. I'm such a huge fan of Breaking Bad, and the great thing is, he's not a bad guy per se. I mean, he's making, of course, bad decisions and acts along the series. But, I mean, in the first 2 episodes, you understand who this guy is. And you understand that he wants to live, he wants to feel alive again. And that's why, I mean, that's why this character has been taking all these viewers with him on this kind of crazy route to the end of the show, because people were able to follow him anywhere, because we're all Walter White, and we're all wanting to get a better life. We want to feel alive, and I think that that's what I felt with the character of Dad, played by Matt Cooper, that I felt that this guy wanted to be loved and wanted to have a good living. And of course, his actions to get that are bad, really bad, but where it comes from, it's something that is universal. And that's why people are rooting with Walter White. I mean, the crazy thing is, at the end of the series, you're like, oh, he's been doing so many bad stuff, and I think that we were not realizing, because we were so much empathizing with him because of what he's been through and what he really wanted to have in life. The key scene for me is when, in the first season, when he has his big break with the drug dealer Tuco. I mean, he's blowing the whole place up, and then he has his money in the car. He's like yelling, and he feels alive. And I think for me, that's the epicenter of what characters on screen should be, and what I love to see about them.
So you wouldn't want to see, like, let's suppose this perfect guy who's got the supermodel wife and drives this great sports car and never gets mad and has this like perfect Zen attitude. That's not appealing?
Well, actually, that's pretty appealing too. I mean, in a way, I think about The Wolf of Wall Street. Well, it's not Leonardo DiCaprio is not that zen in the movie, but I love the way also this guy wants to also feel alive, and he's a true bad guy, but he's a wolf because he wants something which is visceral, and I think which has existed since dawn of time in human nature. And so I think as long as screenwriters are able to make any character, it can be a loser or a multimillionaire. I mean, any character, if the writer is able to make us relate to him through something visceral, I think it should be something visceral, something which is something we all aspire to have. Then it's done. Then the match is won. I mean, you have won as soon as the audience can root for this guy, and because they are feeling what this guy is feeling.
Ben, would you call yourself competitive?
I don't have a competitive nature,
no.
But
in filmmaking.
But I'm competitive with myself, I would say. I love challenges for myself. I'm giving myself tons of challenges all the time, and I think that's the most fun, and that's the great thing. It's not about competing with other people, but just competing with yourself and elevating the bar and just trying to reach for more and more. And for this movie, I was challenging myself to writing it in such an amount of time, shooting it in such an amount of time. We shot in 12 days, and the day before the last day, we shot an 8-page scene in 2 hours. For me, movie making is like the ultimate team sport, and it's all about challenging yourself and the other people who are working with you. So when we shot this 8 pages scene in 2 hours, it felt so good at the end of the day because we had everything we wanted to have. We didn't need anything more, and it was something which we couldn't do any longer because we had the location at UCLA for this amount of time, and we knew that we couldn't stay any minute longer. So we had this, what people could see as a pressure. For me is it's a limit, but I love limits. Limits for me is a way to get a way around it and make it happen. And the sun was going down, so we had only 2 hours, and we made it happen because everybody on a set, every actor, every crew was doing their job. They were right in their position, and we just shot, and we got it.
So competition within yourself.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
I think that comes from me as a viewer also. I love bravura when filmmakers just transcend a story and go beyond intellectual or limits, or go beyond scientific stuff, or go beyond what filmmaking is, beyond just using a camera as a tool. I mean, that's why people go and see Gravity. I mean, when you are in Gravity, you are in a movie. These long takes are not something for the sake of doing long takes. It's something which elevates the story and bring you in the story as a viewer. So I love the challenges as a way to get better stories and to get better images, to get better words to throw people into.
Do you have a trait of getting things done? I see that about you. You get things done.
Yeah, that's my motto. That would be my motto, to make it work and to get things done. Especially on a movie set, you have to you have to get things done. Otherwise, nobody is gonna help you. I mean, as the director, that's the role. The set is a chaotic place. It's a very chaotic place, and it's a dangerous place also. And that's, I think, what a lot of people who have not been on the set don't know about a movie set. It's a dangerous place, and that's a chaotic place. And as a movie maker, I think our role is to manage chaos and to keep people focused and to show the way and to get things done, even though so many weird, crazy stuff can happen on the set. You have to keep. I mean, you are the commander of a boat. You have to keep going.
Ben, you said earlier that being a director is being a captain of a ship and managing chaos. Now, I understand that one of your actresses was out of commission. So how did that happen, and how did you not let everything fall apart, or maybe it did for a day?
Right. Okay. So we had we intended to shoot the movie in 12 days, which at the end of the day we did, but with a 1 month stop in production. So the thing is, we shot the 6 first days of shoot, and then our lead actress broke a collarbone on set, which of course in the moment was a sad thing to go through for all of us, because we were so in it together. And you know what? Actually, to get back on set, it was pretty easy. I remember that, I mean, the lead actress wanted to go back so bad because she was so committed, and everyone was so committed that I think we went back and I sent an email like 5 days only after that, asking for people, would it be available in 1 month to end? And people were like, all the actors and all the crew was so committed and involved to tell the story, and they liked the first part of the movie so much that they were like, of course we want to go back. And so we would just then waited 1 month, and people went back on set, and we did the 6 other days of shoot 1 month after. So pretty much it was actually simple to get everybody back on set, because people were so, it was such a cohesive mood, I mean, atmosphere, and people were so committed to telling the story that, of course, they wanted to finish the story and to tell the story.
How did you handle it when, so I'm assuming she went to the hospital and you don't know what's happening, you didn't know how committed everyone was?
Right.
So that 24 hours or however long, how were you dealing with that?
It was to see both her in pain and to see the film stopped. It's like the two most awful pains. But I have such a nature of just overcoming things that I put myself into the future, and I was like, okay, we have to make it work, and we have to start rerouting the film toward its end. And so yeah, I had this, yeah, I'd say less than 24 hours moment of doubt, of course, but because the instinct was to finish the film, I just decided to just go beyond it, to go beyond doubt and the pain, and just to get everybody on board again.
So your advice to another filmmaker that,
right.
It sounds like when you're all in on something, you're like 110%.
Exactly, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, there's no stopping you. So what's your advice to another filmmaker that maybe doesn't have that strong of a resolve, but could if they had the right pep talk?
Sure. Well, don't let go of anything. Just don't stop anything. There is nothing which will stop your movie if you have the right people with you. So be sure of who you have in your crew, in your cast, but especially in your crew. Have a good and legitimate producer, have a good and legitimate line producer, have a great first AD which you can tell anything to, and who will do anything for the sake of the movie to help you go through this road. So it's, I mean, in LA there are a lot of people who call themselves producers because they have like this small credit like on IMDb or some of the stuff, or don't even have anything, and just stay away from that. And I know that finding the legitimate people takes time, and that's the hardest part. If you have illegitimate people on board, you will fail. And even if you are somebody who is a great soul and tries to overcome everything, if you have illegitimate people, and I'm not talking about only bad vibrations or this kind of stuff, but unprofessional people, you won't make it. So be sure of who you have in your crew, be sure of who you have in your cast, and then it would be pretty easy to follow up with this kind of crew and cast.
How many days did you work on the Pink Zone script?
I started working on the idea and the concept of the film, shaping the concept in March 2013, and I wrote the first draft, I think it was in April 2013. So I had a whole month of just shaping the concept and getting to this idea of a virus transmitted by men to women and deadly to women. And for me, I knew this film should come from a concept like it used to be in the 80s, you know, like this high concept movie. And I knew that was the form I wanted to have for the film. And then as soon as I had the concept, it went pretty quick. I mean, in 2 months, I had 2 months between the first draft and the final draft. So I would say April to May 2013.
So your first draft, who do you let read it?
No one, literally no one.
No one.
Because the first draft for me is, I mean, I think in first draft in everything is bad. I mean, it's like the first edit, the rough edit, it's gonna be bad all the time. That was Thelma Schoonmaker and Martin Scorsese, I mean, Martin Scorsese's editor who said it. The first, the rough edit is crap. And it is, like the first draft, of course. And when I went back, I was like, oh, how could I wrote that? And that's part of the way it is. And then the second draft, I started to show it to a group of people I brought in into a writers group. I formed a writers group, but that was only from the second or third draft. So yeah, I started rewriting the first draft myself, and then boom, bringing back people I could trust to give me inputs, all that stuff, and then rewriting, rewriting again and again and again and again until that point where at the end it felt ready and ready to show to other people. So yeah, that's. I think you shouldn't show a first draft to anyone. Rewrite before showing another draft to people.
Where do you do your best writing? Is it at home or out?
For this film, I wrote a lot in coffee shops. Really? And for me, it was great because I needed to have this life around me to help me put life into my characters, and also it was a way to ground these people into reality, because I wanted the movie to look as realistic as it could. And I know sometimes, for me, the greater risk would have been to step aside from reality. And I think sometimes that's something which happened a lot to scripts, to completely forget about reality, where this story is happening, who are these characters, where they are living in, and for me, being able to write it, I mean, not rewriting it, but I mean writing some of the stuff in coffee shops, is bringing me this life and making me remember that life is all around us, and these people should be alive and walking around as we are speaking. And so I came up with the backstory of every single character because of that. And for me, I wanted every single character to feel like before this great virus appeared on Earth, they had a life which was totally different, and they had jobs which were totally different. They came from places which were totally different, and that's why writing it into coffee shops for me made me more aware of the reality of it.
So this writers group that you formed, were they also bringing in their original material too, or this was just to look over your, like a script read? Or?
They were bringing their own material too, so we gave a look to their material too. But I have to say we spent a lot of time, most of the time, talking about Pink Zone, and which was truly insane because you have these people working from totally different places and had totally different sensibilities to film. So it could have been like blockbuster and auteur films. So this mix of inputs about the script allowed me to be aware of other people out there who would watch the film, and they should get in the story also. So that was great.
Do you reward or punish yourself if you don't sit down at the computer, or if you don't go to whatever the coffee shop is, and then vice versa?
No, I think that's more of an organic process. Just okay, for Pink Zone, I have to say I forced myself to just go there and write and write and rewrite. So, yeah, I forced myself. And I would say that the next one I'm writing right now I want to write it in a totally different way. I'm writing in a totally different way, which is a story I'm more, which is with me, and I'm more taking the time to get everything matured within my mind. I want every character to have its own life in my mind, and write it later on, as everybody would have this life of their own in my mind. So yeah, I mean, so I'm trying this new way of writing it, which is also as good and less stressful, I have to say, because it's true that when you have, because I knew I needed to go into production in July, so I knew that I couldn't mess up with anything, and I had to just write it. And almost in a Roger Corman kind of way, in an exploitation movie, I was like, I need to write it, and I had this date, so I couldn't just take my time like I'm doing right now to just let the characters live in my mind. I had this time limit, which in a way is great because it forces you to write.
Ben, where do you see filmmaking 10 to 20 years from now?
That's a good one. That's I think it's all about immersion of the viewer into the stories more and more. That's why we're seeing Gravity and films like that, and that's why people tried the 3D, but 3D was a fad. So I mean, 3D is not going to exist anymore. But the goal is still, I think, for movies to immerse people into the story, whether it is on a blockbuster format like Gravity, literally putting the viewer in a movie, and even I think for some indies, I mean, it's all about immersion in terms of creating places and atmospheres and moods that the viewer is going to get immersed into, and so I think both of studio filmmaking and indie filmmaking are looking for the same kind of thing, I hope, which is immersion, and that's why there are so many great ways of getting there, which I think are not even created yet. I mean, all the stuff that James Cameron is preparing for his next Avatar's movies in LA. I mean, it's like you can either love it or hate it. I understand that some people don't believe in that or hate this kind of filmmaking, but you have to recognize that this guy, for example, is a total pioneer and is making things progress and for the sake of a story each time. And so I think that immersion has always been, since the dawn of movie making, the motto for movie makers. And I think that immersion will still be the goal. And how can we go to more immersion? Would that be this new screening systems that the Fox is trying right now, which is 3 screens at the same time. It's a brand new screening system which is going to arrive, I think, soon in some theaters in the US, which is 3 screens, one on each side and one in front, which is kind of a Dolby surround applied to film, which is I know it sounds kind of weird, but I mean, let's try it. Let's see how it goes. So there is this kind of cinema. There is the all digital capture cinema where you have this camera which you are pointing everywhere into a digital world. So basically, the cameraman is pointing into the world, and you're seeing where you are shooting. And you have so many great forms which are developing. So I think the future is going to be bright. Great new forms, some fads like the 3D, which are going to be talked about for a year and then nobody's going to talk about it anymore. But some of these techniques are going to stay, and I think that's great, because even us right now as indie filmmakers, we can find great ways to get the audience even more into the story.
And the movie business? 10 to 20 years from now?
One thing which is sad is, I think right now there is I mean, of course I'm not the first one to say it. That was what George Lucas and Steven Spielberg were saying about there is a gap which is accentuating between blockbusters and indie films. And that's true that indie films are getting even more indie and even more recluse to people, and blockbusters are also getting even more focused on only superhero movies. So you get like, it's kind of sad to see these two poles getting apart in a way, but because I'm an optimistic person, I think there are a lot of ways to bring the two together again. Like if you're looking at Christopher Nolan, I was telling you, he's the most brilliant indie filmmaker and studio filmmaker, and he's doing the two at the same time. I mean, movies like Inception or The Dark Knight were done in a very indie way. I mean, with his DP Willie Pfister, they come from this world and they know how to. They shoot in a very independent way, even though they're making the biggest budget of their time. And so that's why I think there are people like that who can do both at the same time.
How did you get Pink Zone into your first film festival?
So Pink Zone had its world premiere at the Density Film Festival, which truly is an amazing festival, which is one of the biggest indie film festival in LA. And we had this at the world premiere at the Chinese Theater. So it was such a great moment, and the people there, the founders of the festival, Leslie Scallon and Michael Trent, are just two amazing film lovers, and they are some of the greatest people I've met so far in this business. They are really amazing, and they managed to create this festival which get even bigger and bigger with the time, and still maintained its connection with filmmakers and the audience. So for me, the choice of going with them, and when I received their notifications that they wanted to screen the movie, to be part of the official selection, I was like, of course we want to go with you, because they had this great spirit about them. there is this great spirit about them, and they love movies, and they make you feel like it. So it's great.
So the other festivals that you've chosen to submit to, how did you choose them? And do you ever ask them to waive fees? And I mean, it's a lot to submit to these.
It is a lot, and I know some people are asking to waive fees. I personally, especially at the beginning of the festival circuit, I was not being comfortable with asking like, oh, do this for free to me, because I understand that, especially if you are into indie filmmaking, you can understand and relate to independent festivals and the way, I mean, they need to make a living and to show even more movies. They need to have this fund. So for me, paying the fees, even though sometimes it can be brutal because it's kind of expensive when you're doing a lot of them, you are participating to something which is helping you at the end of the day, helping your film. So I chose, and the way I chose these festivals is I knew density with films, the type of films they were screening, and it was perfectly the right target for Pink Zone. Same thing for Action Film, which is more of a genre film festival. And now we have so many, I mean, at the same time as we chose these ones, we just learned that we got into Fantasporto, which is one of the greatest genre film festival in Europe, and who basically is screening the top third genre films in the world, and we got in because they have this way of doing things where they show the most talked about genre movies of the year at the same time as they take a leap of faith for small genre films like us. And so each film will find its own home, and of course not every festivals are for every film. Of course you have to know which film you made, you have to know what is going to be your audience, and once you know that, you can target precisely the kind of festivals you want to go into.
Ben, how hard was it for you to find investors for Pink Zone?
Well, I have to say I call it a no budget, which is because we had to spend like, I'd say between 5,000 and 6,000, which is no budget in terms of movie making, and they were all private savings. So we went and made the movie with literally no funds and no one involved. So in a way it was making us feel free. But I mean, I think that even though that was the story of this movie, I would tell young filmmakers not to be afraid of getting money. You have to go and get the money where it is out there. So getting investors is not a bad thing. It is not going to ruin your creative vision. On the contrary, I think that on the contrary, it can be seen as a limit. But if you are as serious and as good as a filmmaker, you will always find a way to go around that and to tell your story, the story you have in your heart, in your mind. So I don't think that would be a limit, even when a lot of people are putting money from everywhere and then ask for people to for certain kind of things. But it's like every other limit on a movie set. I mean, when you're making a movie, there are a lot of limits, and there are a lot of obstacles, and you just have to go around it, around the mountain, and just find a way to just continue and keep telling the story.
So no crowdfunding? You didn't want to try your hand at that? Why?
No.
What was it about it?
The thing was because we just wanted to shoot that fast that we had the money there sleeping for us. So we just went out and made the movie, and we didn't want to wait too long for crowdfunding and to put our hopes on hold. You know, it's like when you're doing crowdfunding, it's great, but you you can also be waiting longer and longer than expected, and then the level of interest for the story and commitment is getting down and down and down. So whereas for Pink Zone, it was kind of for me, the reference in the way we did this film is Roger Corman. We just went and did a Roger Corman kind of film with just no budget and just shot it for the sake of the story, with just the help of friends and our private savings.
For your next film, which I know you're planning, this crime drama, I guess?
Yeah.
Do you plan to do a bigger budget?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. For me, this one was primarily to bring them to cut my teeth in, and the next one, the way I'm writing it right now, is on a much bigger scale, and even though it's very grounded to reality, it will involve much more money. So I'm open to any kind of investments. Can go from crowdfunding to private investors. It's we will go where who will be interested to finance it.
Do you plan on mapping that out? Like, do you know certain people that you can ask, or do you plan, let's launch the crowdfunding campaign and then maybe sometimes investors will match certain things? I mean, do you have an idea?
Yeah, I know that especially with the film festivals where I'm presenting Pink Zone right now, a lot of people are asking me, okay, what's next? And I'm talking about them about this story, and so I met these people who are, because they saw Pink Zone and loved it so much, they are committed to maybe help finance the next one. And so that's why this movie also is great as a way to engage people to finance the next one. And that's why also for the next film festivals we're going to do with Pink Zone, especially the big ones in Europe, we're going to still continue present Pink Zone as a way to finance the next one.
Your cast for Pink Zone, very young, attractive cast. Right. What made you choose that cast?
I chose that cast because I wanted to have people who were fresh and new and could experiment with their characters with improvisation, because I relied a lot on improvisation and without no judgment on their characters. And that's what I love about them, that they had no preconceived ideas about their own characters. And each single day when they came on set, I was being able to direct them in a way they could take from their own life too and build the characters in a much closer way to them.
Your approach working with an actress versus an actor. I know with actresses, hey, I'm a woman, we're concerned with the way we look, so they take a little longer sometimes to get ready and they're more concerned with certain things. So your approach with an actress versus an actor?
You know what, I have to say I worked with them both with no different approach at all. For me, they were their characters. I had a different approach for each actor, because a lot of the actors worked in a different way, and so I'm tuning my my approach as a director to each actor rather than male and girls. And so now all the girls were so committed, they didn't lose any time, just like this myth of hair and makeup. Everybody was just so committed, and there was literally no time for small things like that.